Hey, you. Yes, I'm talking to you. Subscribe to the channel right now. Lily was a beautiful young woman who lived in a small town in Japan. Her boyfriend's name was Peter, and although he didn't have much money, Lily loved him very much. She was overjoyed when her childhood sweetheart asked her to marry him. After the wedding, they moved in together, and the happy couple were soon expecting a baby. Lily didn't care that Peter was poor, but as time went on, he became angry and depressed about his lack of prospects. Peter soon grew to hate his happy young wife and started an affair with a rich young woman named Sasha. He romanced her for months, and eventually she fell in love with him, despite his poverty and the fact that he was already married. One day, Sasha's father came to see Peter. He told Peter what a shame it was that he was already married. The father went on to tell him all the ways he could ensure his future son-in-law's wealth and success. Peter listened intently. Peter spent a great deal of time thinking about what Sasha's father had told him. An evil plot began to form in his mind. He decided that the only way he could marry Sasha was to somehow get rid of Lily and her unborn child. He thought that the easiest way to do this was to secretly poison Lily and to make it look like she had died of natural causes. Poor Lily was totally ignorant of her husband's murderous plans. Blissfully unaware of the fate that was about to befall her, she continued to happily prepare for the birth of their baby. One evening, when Lily and Peter were sitting down to eat dinner, she noticed her husband was strangely quiet and nervous. She encouraged him to eat his dinner, but he wouldn't touch his food. He yelled at Lily and told her to stop fretting and eat her own meal. She needed to be strong for the baby, he said. Lily finally gave up trying to tempt Peter's appetite and started to eat her dinner. It wasn't long before she felt very sick. Peter watched her coldly as the poison did its work, not offering her any help or comfort. But Lily did not die right away. Her beautiful face became disfigured from the poison first. Then she slipped into unconsciousness. Peter was too much of a coward to finish off the job he started, so he put Lily's lifeless body in bed. Eventually, Lily woke from her coma, remembering nothing of the poisoning. She had lost her baby, and her face was ugly and terrible, but Lily lived. Peter was desperate. He played the part of the concerned husband, but he was looking for any way possible to rid himself of his wife. One evening, he took Lily for a long walk. They made their way to a cliff, and Peter looked around to see if anyone was nearby. No one was in sight. Peter pushed Lily off the ledge. Her broken body was recovered, and Peter gave her the best funeral he could afford, spending all of his money in a great show of marital devotion. Of course, Peter knew his money troubles were only temporary now that Lily was gone. Thinking his worries were over, Peter planned his wedding to Sasha. The night before the marriage was to take place, Peter noticed his bedside lamp was dimming. He looked at it curiously as it seemed to be changing. The disfigured face of Lily suddenly replaced the lamp, growing larger and larger in the room. "Betrayal," it hissed. Peter grabbed a stick and swung at the face, but Lily disappeared and the lamp smashed and fell to the floor. Peter thought he heard the faint laughter of a woman from outside. Shaken, Peter convinced himself that the vision was simply the result of drinking too much alcohol earlier in the evening, and he went to bed. The next day, Peter had forgotten all about the specter from the night before, and he and Sasha were wed. When he lifted her veil, however, her beautiful young face was replaced with Lily's horrible visage. "Betrayal," she hissed. The horrified Peter drew his sword and swung it at the ghostly apparition, cutting Lily's head off. The severed head rolled down the aisle of the church, but when it came to a stop, it hit Sasha's face and not Lily's. He heard the faint sound of laughter again. Peter ran to his tiny house, looking for a place to hide. There was a pounding at the door, and Sasha's mother demanded that he open it. But when Peter did so, Lily was standing there. "Betrayal," she hissed. Once again, Peter tried to decapitate her, but when his sword finished its work, it was Sasha's father that lay dead. Peter ran for the cliffs, Lily's laughter following him. He stopped at the edge and looked down, perhaps changing his mind. It didn't matter. Passers-by reported seeing a woman push Peter off the cliff before she jumped after him, laughing all along.
I bought a new house in the small town of Winthrop. The house was cheap, but the most important part was that I needed to get away from the city. A few months ago, I had a run-in with a stalker. While I managed to get him arrested, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes just constantly watching me. I felt like there were eyes everywhere, at home and on the street, so I decided to move out into the country to somewhere with less people, just for some peace of mind. The house itself was big and somewhat old, but otherwise very welcoming. The agent who introduced me to the house had been required to mention that a serial killer had lived here in the past, which was why the house was so cheap. However, he and later my next-door neighbor Sarah both told me to pay the thought no mind. 4 other owners had lived in the house since then, and all of them were very happy with it. I loved the house. Its interior furnishings were beautiful and very comfortable. The people of Winthrop were friendly, often bringing over freshly baked pastries or inviting me over for dinner. Get-togethers, they said, were the key to making sure everyone who lived in Winthrop loved it there. Yet, after a week, I stopped loving it. The feeling of someone watching returned, worse than before. I tried to ignore it, but soon I started losing sleep. Giant bags grew under my eyes, and I began yawning almost as much as I breathed. Sarah was kind enough to let me stay in her house for a few nights. It was during this time that I heard the legend of Jim Carter, the serial killer who had lived in my house. While no one knows his exact kill count, Carter, also known as the Winthrop Peacock, was a man with extremely severe case of narcissism. Legends say that he couldn't fall asleep if he didn't feel like he was being watched. He was finally arrested for putting up a scarecrow to watch him during the night. Only it wasn't a scarecrow. Carter had murdered a 17-year-old girl just so her corpse could stare at him. The story gave me shivers. After I went home, I felt like there were hundreds of pairs of eyes just watching me no matter how I turned. Today, however, was the first day that I acted out. I was cooking breakfast when I felt the eyes. Instinctively, out of fear, I threw my kitchen knife, which lodged itself into the wall. As I pulled it out, I found myself staring at a pair of eyes, pickling in formaldehyde. I called the police, and they were home in no time. I showed them the pair of eyes. Their team started scraping off the wallpaper and break the first layer of the wall. It's been hours now. I've been watching the police peel away the drywall of my house. So far, they've found 142 pairs of eyes in little glass jars. The scariest thing is, each and every one was staring at me.
Subscribe to the channel and enjoy more videos.